we do need to have people who have our back. And, regardless of if you have, like a husband or a wife or a partner or a whole family or not, because we need a village. Like, the expression that you need a village to raise a child. Like, you need a village for you.
Hello, and welcome back to the podcast Biz on the Brain with your host, me, Annemarie, where we talk about anything and everything around being your most authentic self, how that looks, and how you can show up in your personal life and in your business the fullest way that aligns with your soul, with your highest self, and where you want to go, and really just polarize people by just being unapologetically yourself, that you attract the right kind of people to your vibe who love you for you, and the people who don't like it, they will just instantly be repelled and they go on their merry way. That is the goal. And this podcast focuses on conversations with other wonderful business women and hearing their story of how they interpret all of this, how they manage this, how they show up as themselves, follow their passion. And this specific season is all about talking to fellow manifestors. If you know human design, you know what a manifestor is. If you don't, then I recommend going back to the first episode of the third season where I explain it a little bit about generally human design. I find it really, really fascinating. It is very incredible and almost eerie how specific this human design can read you and how you operate in the world. And it just really helps you to make things clearer for yourself. You don't have to follow any of those prescribed things like, astrology, anagrams, or whatever method you may be interested in. But for me, I found human design was just eye-opening, very validating, and really confirmed what I knew about myself, but I over time was talked out of or felt more scared to show. And so that's why I really want to talk about it. And in this episode, I'm talking to marketing expert Marion Chloé Theis. I am really bad at French. I hope I didn't butcher her name, because we talked about, what it is like being a manifestor, how her experiment goes, which is what it is called, when you actually look at your design and you try to listen to what it tells you works really well for you. So you just try it out and see if you like it. And her story about traveling the world and things just falling into place when you allow things to happen, when you go with the flow, which is what I personally experienced when I traveled the world and was open to just drifting and following impulses that felt really good for me and naturally attracted people to me. And so she found her partner that way and had amazing encounters, and I don't want to take away too much of it. So without further ado, Marion.
Hello. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. The last time we chatted, I was sitting outside in the rain with an umbrella, spontaneously having an urge to do a branding video shoot. And so I did it. And now we're here in the dry, which is good. And yes. I'm so happy to have you. So quickly introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Hi, my name is Marion Chloé Theis. Obviously, I'm French. I've been living in the countryside for about 5 years in the UK. What else do you need to know about me? I am a manifestor in human design, which will not surprise you. And I am also a marketing analytics coach, which means I help spiritual women grow their business in a way that feels good. My title line is slow living, fast marketing. So, you can have a slow life and chill and have all the nuts and still grow your business and, have an impact and, ways that feels good.
Nice. Yeah, and that really resonated with me because we have the overlap there, because I'm all about also just creating a life that feels good for you without all of the hustle culture BS. Don't care about that. But also just to really actually know what it is that you actually like, because that had been my biggest eye-opener, that I didn't actually know who I was, because my entire childhood was just basically being conditioned, don't be manifestor, don't do any of the stuff, just listening to all the people, because they seemed so very specific on all the things that I was supposedly not doing right, or how I expressed myself was not convenient to people that I thought, okay, everybody else seems to know what life is about and what I should be doing, and apparently I cannot be trusted, which is funny because my authority is discipline. So like, yes, all of my decisions, the big ones, are so weird and illogical, but they're just right, and you cannot put logic there. Absolutely not. And I will never go anywhere. And so I didn't. And then until I had like a big breakdown where I was just like filled with rage, and then it just like traveled around the world and being like, oh, actually I'm allowed to do whatever the heck I want, and actually the world doesn't burn to shreds just because I follow my own desires, and it's fine, it doesn't harm anybody. And in fact, it actually inspired more people, especially women, to do that. And I was like, oh, maybe there's something there. Maybe I should, talk to more people who are doing some work in that way, because I always find it so inspirational to hear other people, especially now that I know that I'm a manifestor and what we're like about, to like hear other people's stories of following their urges and overcoming some adversary, like working with that repellent energy, because you can also use it to your advantage to get all of the people who have a lot to say, but like shouldn't be anybody to listen to, get out of the way. Like, what's your take on that?
I can relate to what you've shared about, all the conditioning and feeling like everybody has basically all their life and shit figured out, and I'm the only one who doesn't. But I think it's like, it goes beyond even the manifestor. I think everybody is just doing the best they can on a day-to-day, and nobody's got any idea of where we're going or where they're going at all. And the ones who do are the ones who are lying, probably to themselves as well. I think it's good to have like a, vision of what you want to do. I do get intuitive nudges about like where my life is heading. I've had like my whole life, and I know things that will happen, but at the end of the day, I don't know the how, I don't know the when. And I think that's kind of, that's what being human is. You can have a plan and you can have all those things, and yet you can't really control any of it. Just your perspective and your resilience and your outlook on it.
Yeah, I agree, because ultimately, like, who are we to know everything we don't? I feel like one of the biggest lies is just that we think adults have it all together when we like grow up, and then we're an adult, we're like, I still don't. It's just like a big trap.
And I think it would be boring. I think, I do believe we come here for a reason, and I do believe that, we are a soul with a body. And, when we're not in the body, we do know all those things. We do have access to infinite knowledge and wisdom and all the energy what we want. But we choose to come here on Earth where there are certain rules about, physics and gravity and money as a currency and all that, to experience a lot of things and to just kind of play a game of like, let's play a game of I don't remember, and see how it goes and see how you can grow as a person, while on this very, very interesting journey.
It's true. And I sometimes feel like I'm playing this game on like a microcosm, because sometimes I wake up and I'm just like, where was all of that excitement and the zest that I had last night? And I was like, all of these plans, and I hate to do this. Like, I will write them and I will ignore them. So I'm like, whatever, and then I wake up and just like, I don't know what to do right now. I can't tap into, especially if you have this like splenic urge, like it's just there and then it's gone and then we'll just not come back. I'm like, please, I need more input on like where to go, because there isn't a clear path anyway ever. And it's just like finding that, I guess, like this joy and just going for it, and then things just coming together as you like move into the desired or the aligned path. But I think getting back on that track for me is always a bit weird.
Yeah, I think ultimately, especially, as humans, once more, like overall, and also especially with, like non-sacral, and obviously I'm not a projector, but I do have projected channels. You can't really control how and when your energy is going to show up. Sometimes, like, I'm exactly like you, especially at night, I'll be like, oh, well, yeah, I've finished doing that, tomorrow I'll do this and that. And then the next day, I'm just like, I'm just not feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay, because that's my mind's expectation that we're going to pick up exactly where we left it off and work in a very day after day generator way of like, on Monday it is the same hours as on Tuesday and Wednesday, and like work from like Monday to Friday. And especially as women, like we're not even here taking into account how cyclical our energy is. Because, while I'm on a period, like, I don't know about you, but like, I do nothing. I do more like intensive creative work, which is going to be helpful, but it's not the same energy as, being in like 2 weeks later when I'm like super productive and I want to get things done. And I think we do have to embrace our cyclical nature, which society doesn't really understand. Or, like at the end of the day, everybody does, more or less what they want. But like, like the work life of an employee, for example, is from Monday to Friday, and you work the same every day. You're expected to have the same output, and that's just not realistic, and you don't work 8 hours a day. You don't have 8 hours of predictive time when you're working. So that's just like, I think you're very lucky if you have like 4. That's like a very productive day.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. I think like the overall way society has been built up is just deeply questionable. It's really not centered around humans, really. I feel like a lot of, with the industrialization and stuff, I don't know how deep we want to go, but like I always think like we need some complete rethinking, not just like, oh yeah, let's just build on that and let's change this a little bit. Like, no, can we just disrupt the thing? Can we just teach kids to like actually follow what their interests are and build their strengths instead of just making them all sit together and regurgitate the same answers, and then there's a right and wrong answer, and then my ADHD brain was always like, so I've got like 10 different answers, like I'm not sure what you want from me, because like I see these different contextual environments where things would be more nuanced, and then it's like, no, this is wrong, I gave you one answer. I'm like, it doesn't quite make sense, and then you're being disruptive. Because like kids are just fascinating, and I find it also crazy that Gen Z now gets such a bad rap for being like lazy and for not wanting to work and for questioning everything, for being like the rebels that millennials kind of thought we were, like the cycle breakers. But we, as everybody ages, like I feel like every single generation does that. They just hate on the younger generations because they were like, we went through it, so you better do it too. When that's actually a really, really bad thing to wish on other people, because like, what it's been like. Why would you wish that?
Yeah, and when you look back at, Plato and Socrates in ancient Greece, like they were already thinking about how the new generation didn't know shit and how they were being lazy, because now they had books, so they didn't have to memorize all the information. They could just like consult it at their leisure. So I guess, with the speed of information, that has changed a lot. But at the end of the day, I really don't think that kids are made to be sat in school 6 hours a day to be told how to do things. I do think there are skills that are needed, but, like letting the kids lead, as you were saying, with their interest and foster their creativity and their imagination and their resilience and their can-do attitude is like is what they need and we need as a society. And it's very much the complete opposite of what we're being taught at school, which is like you sit down, you listen to the teacher, the authority. And actually, I do feel quite lucky because growing up in France, we were encouraged to use our critical thinking. So when you'd write an essay, it wouldn't actually be an essay of like, this is my opinion. You would always go for like, okay, so this is the first point of view. And then the second part would be, this is the opposite point of view. And then maybe a third part would be like, how can we make emerge a new idea that encompasses both previous ideas to like make something better. And I thought the critical thinking bit of that was really, really interesting, because critical thinking is like so important, especially if you want to have involved citizens, people who are actually being involved in like society in like very different ways. But the way I'm saying it out is just like, just do what I say, and you have to, you have to sit on the chair. And I had like a training workshop this weekend, and it was great. And sitting 6 hours a day, like it was just so hard, and I could get up and whatever. But it just made me realize like I would not be able to like go full time in school anymore. And I think a lot of adults think this way and feel this way, and yet that's what we ask our children who aren't able to understand a lot of things because the brain hasn't finished developing and can't sit still and all that, to just do. And that doesn't make any sense. We're not creating citizens and all that. We're just creating people who can follow orders. That's not the vibe.
I agree. And it seems so unnatural too. Like, what animal just like sits around the entire day? Like, you need to move, you need to use your muscles. Like, it will also give you like the dopamine, it will give you more inspiration, stimulation. Like, I loved when we were on just like a hike. Like, sometimes I just like take people on a walk, and then maybe I'll teach them something, but like as we walk, as we experience the thing, and then you can have conversations about this and that, and you react to your environment. And like, I love, like, I'm full of the most random facts. Like, I walk by, I'm like, did you know about this specific tree, or like this car, or like over this house? Like, like it is so much more fascinating to actually teach in a different way. And I wish like it was more. I think there's lots of different approaches of, Waldorfschule, like these different school types where it's much more in nature and hands-on, but they also get a bad rep. But at the core of it, it's just still the old school system, I feel like. Very much like teaching kids. I don't know. I don't have kids, so I'm not that deep into it. But I think the thing is that society has just accepted it as normal. And it's like, please don't question this. Because we as adults, like, one of my biggest pet peeves of business is just looking at all of these websites and thinking you're all looking the same. Like, you have this professional PowerPoint suited up look, and all of your copy is optimized, and the websites are beautifully branded, and then you say all of these buzzwords and talks, and I'm like, but who are you? Like, what's your real story that isn't just, milked for the effect that you want to achieve with people? Like, that real human connection, especially with coaches. Like, I want to work with a person and know what it's like to work with the person and not with their template.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, and I've been in marketing. I was counting those days. It's been 14 years since I first got into the whole thing, and studying it, and starting with internship, and then working, and then as a freelancer, and then like up to now. And it's really interesting to kind of, and I do go back and forth between like knowing the words to use and knowing which kind of concept to market in marketing or technique to use. And on the other hand, going for like authenticity and natural. And, sometimes, very often, and that's the way I like to do marketing, like both of them actually can coexist together. But sometimes they're very at odds. Yeah. Like, position yourself as the expert, but also what about just being honest and transparent and sharing just because you want to?
Yep.
As you're learning, which actually in terms of marketing works so much better because people can create a better connection with you. Whereas if they feel and you present yourself as having all the answers, then like it means you're here and they're here, and there's such a bigger gap.
Yeah.
So there are all those things, and ultimately, and that's one of the things that I think probably like you, I'm just very passionate about, and something I work with my clients, is there isn't one marketing or business strategy that is going to make anyone successful. Like, there isn't. And anyone who was trying to sell you on that is actually trying to sell you on that, which isn't a bad thing. Selling is not a bad thing, but I get really annoyed by people who get some amount of success in their business and then start selling their strategy or their blueprint as a help-proof successful strategy. And it's like, it's not because it's worked for you, and probably for the people, that it's going to work for everyone. Like, we each have, unique abilities, unique talents, unique gifts, and also different preferences. And the important thing is to find a strategy that feels good to you, that feels aligned, that works, and that is also sustainable, because some people would be okay showing up on Instagram and posting 3 hours a day and doing TikTok and all of that. And some others will prefer focusing on some other kind of content. That means they don't have to be tied up to social media all the time. We're all very different. So why are we trying to find the missing piece? And I know it's very natural. I've been there sometimes, like eyeing a course online, and I'm like, oh, maybe it has the answer I need. And it's like, well, ultimately, if it's for something technical, if I want to better my skill, yes, that has some value. But if it's about finding a quick fix and the missing piece to my success, then it's not going to work.
No. And we also always evolve. Like, a year ago, I had a different kind of approach, a different kind of offering, a different kind of mentality. And like, there's always things you learn and grow. And I always thought that would make much more sense. Just, kind of where I'm moving towards in my business. And that's where what you said, like this discrepancy comes in between using traditional marketing, but also being so authentic, which doesn't really always align with the traditional marketing. So it's kind of jarring and weird, but that's exactly what I want to do with people, to get them on this process of, let me just like ask you what you're currently working on, like what you're focusing on, like just unleashing like that inner child. Like for me specifically, I do like virtual photo shoots, and a lot of them are just me messing around with the other person and they having to like trust the process because they don't know what the heck is going on, because I don't know what's going on. It's just like having fun in a moment, and me then using my expertise to like direct the entire thing, and then I edit, and it all adds up to be like this beautiful goddess artistic portrait, right? Because that's how I see people. I want women to feel like really empowered, and I noticed that we are all big critics, and you can have these beautiful portraits, but like I said, sometimes just this personality is missing. You can capture it to some way, but like I like to add more things that like create that image and that feeling about the person, instead of just letting interpretation be up to the viewer, right? And so like I realize how much, if I do that on myself, because I do it a lot, because I get these random urges and I'm like, I need this photo shoot to happen right now, and it's 2 a.m, nobody's there, right? So like I got to be the model, right? And then I can literally track my own progress, how I felt much more comfortable in front of the camera, how I got more playful and experimental. You can see how my body language changed and all of that. And so it's like, that's a really cool like way of doing branding and marketing, but also paired with like empowerment without me coaching anything. Like I don't have like a plan to tell you, okay, now we're focusing on this stage, on this stage, on this stage. It's really like in the moment, sometimes just like a little thing that keeps you distracted from the day-to-day, because everybody needs a bit more creativity in their business, because it really loosens things up. And if you just like, now I'm going to be creative, and you're sitting in your room like, oh, okay, now it's a chore, right? Or like you need, because not everybody has that creative, like everybody's creative, but not everybody taps into it as easily. Like I'm very right-brained. I'm like the manic artist kind of person. And a lot of people are very strategic in their business. It's like, this is hard to switch between that. So like, I like to use like the manifest energy to like to shake people up and be like, so let's go full on in this creative exercise. You're like at my mercy now. And like, we're not thinking about anything logical right now, right? Like we're stopping the brain. Not literally, please. I don't want anybody to like, metaphorically, the overthinking. Anyway, yeah. So like, and I'm currently in the stage where I'm like, how do I get this across to people? Like, how do I, because I'm like, yeah, I'm a photographer. People are like, yeah, I'd rather go to a studio, or like I wait 2 years until I have a big brand photo shoot. I'm like, so how many people would you be in this meantime, where you could have used like a quick rebrand, or like actually videos that don't take all of your time? Because I do all of my own content, and it's such a time suck. I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it. But it's like, oh, it's such a generator thing too. But also the energy is different if you co-create with people, but it still feels super interesting to people, but they still don't get it. Even if I spell out the benefits, I'm just like, is this a weird manifestor thing that I like came up with and that doesn't land with people? Am I in my own way? Like, what is the thing? How do I market this without sounding so cliche? Like, do you want to tap into your own embodied blood? Like, do you want to feel your essence? Like, it seems so, this is not what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what the heck's going on, but like, it will feel fun. And that's
missing. Yeah, and that's the ever like the challenge, like, coming back, and as we were talking about, between authenticity and using marketing work, because marketing is a tool, and
yes,
it's just like the equivalent of getting putting a window in your shop, so people get interested and then come in, literally just that. And then this is the person. But there are some words that are that resonate more with some people than others, and especially in terms of like getting people to see the importance of working with you or with any other creative person. It's the value, and it's a perspective you bring, because at the end of the day, yes, people want something out of it, but they also want to connect with your vision and your perspective of life and creativity and get a piece of this energy into their life. And your offer is a way to get that. But it's a lot of different pieces to articulate together.
Yeah.
And there's a middle one to be found, because, I do think marketing is necessary, because if you don't talk about your work, and I say everyone, if we don't talk about our work, then it's really, in a way, it's actually very egotistical to think that people will just randomly like show up and work with us. And I don't mean that we should always be, because projector are different, and manifestor and generator and all that, and manifesting generator and blah blah. But there is a thing of you do need to know more or less what you're doing, or you do at least need to have relationship with people, because business is about relationships. It doesn't matter if you do it through, podcast interview, if you do it through posting reels on Instagram, or sharing newsletters, or going to networking events in person. At the end of the day, you just need to get out there and tell people about yourself and your work and your perspective, not in a very salesy marketing way, but it does get easier to speak about what you do, even if there is still a lot of uncertainty, because you get more practice and you see what people react to and what they really, really want, which is where knowing your customer is important. Even though as manifestors, I really try and not focus too much on, what do I think my people want? Because that is the surest way to create something that bores the hell out of me.
Oh, I did that too. It's like, so you all wanted this course, and then just 3 people bought it, and I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, and 3 people actually for a first run is not a bad thing. I think because there is also the thing of being in the online space, and I've been in there since 2016, 2017. So there's this very inflated, quick get rich quick scheme.
Yes.
That's already inflated of oh yes, well, I had a launch and 200 people came over, or even 20 people for a first. But actually, launching a new course and having 3 people is actually quite good. A lot of people launch something and have nothing, which is okay, because then you just learn and you tweak and then you relaunch, which I'm trying to navigate how to do as a manifestor, because we all evolve and we love creating, and it's very different. I think it's a ride. It's really a ride to know how to use our energy in a way that feels good, but is also sustainable for our business, which is which is obviously linked to us, but also a very different entity and needs different things from us. Yeah. So it just I think my beginning of an answer at the moment is the cyclical living, of learning that we have different cycles, and as I was talking, hormone cycle, but just cycles in life and different seasons, and just embracing it all. And whenever we try and find all the answers and the certainty and all of that, just remembering that actually the best strategy for business, for life, for love, for money, for everything is just to be present. It's just to be present. And yet we struggle so much, and there are so many distractions, from social media to food to drugs to sugar to so many things. But being present is really the secret that nobody wants to do, including me. Well, it's practice. It sucks. It's not sexy, and yet that's what life is about.
Yeah, and it's so easy to not be present. It's so easy. And I keep forgetting that, right? Even when I'm now I need to be present, suddenly it becomes a full-on task. And I'm what is the best way now to do this? Do I should yoga, or should I do meditate, or should I go for a walk? And I'm thinking instead of just breathe, just sit still. It's just at so many points in my life, I forgot to even notice what my body needs. I could be so tell me, body, and it would be no, you didn't talk to me, and now you want to talk to me now. So it's this cherishing and keeping this relationship intact, keeping even taps of what worked in the past. Maybe write it down, maybe you have somewhere you can reference if you're in your head again about it. And that also can change, so
yeah, of course. I mean, and something I want to, when people come to me to work on their marketing, which obviously we do, but one of the first thing we address is actually what's your grounding spiritual practice on a daily basis. And I always encourage them to like go and work outside, go to a cafe, go have a walk, go and take just like your cup of coffee in the morning, like open the window and have it in the sunlight without your phone. And it doesn't have to be like an hour meditating, it just can be like 5 minutes where you're just not even necessarily meditating. It's just like you're not doing anything. And just finding these little pockets of time, like before you go out of the car, just taking 10 breaths and then going out and just always recentering yourself throughout the day, because that is what makes life, well, first of all, so much more enjoyable. And also because you're always reconnecting to yourself, then you're more empowered, you're more present, and you're more you, which obviously is the energy you want to put into the world, because there is no one else is like you. And not only that, but there will never, ever be this version of you ever again in this world. Like, I do believe in reincarnation, and yet I'll never be myself again. That's my life. And then even if I reincarnate, I'll be a very different person. Which, so like we might as well just, make the best of it, make the most of it now.
Exactly. And then even if you look back like a week ago, like a year ago, like you always change, you always evolve and like learn new things, and things change you even in small ways. So like, yeah, you're never your same. So sometimes it's really also almost crazy to like appreciate yourself. Like for me, that was like a big shift in my self-worth and like how I talk to myself. I'm like, like all of the stuff that I did without brushing it aside. If like somebody told me of all of these things, how would I react? Like, would I be like, yeah, okay? Or would I be like, damn, like that's actually cool or crazy or what, and just like keeping tabs on it and like taking your time to not just list it off, but to like let it sink back in. And sometimes you need like maybe a photo to look at it and refeel, to use your neurology to like tap into those memories, like because there's really so many ways you can activate yourself in that way, like smells and taste, like you said, just the feeling of the sun on your skin. There's so many ways. And yeah, sometimes it's just simple, because meditation can also be, like you said, just going on a balcony and just enjoying life for a second before you feel the life on your business sucks you back in and you're at the mercy of somebody else, so you can remember your sovereignty. And then,
yeah, definitely. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing we have. We're talking at the beginning about control. That's the only thing we have control over, just the present. That's it. We can't change the past. Yes, we can influence the future, but not exactly how or when and all that. But like the simplest practices, I think, are the most powerful. But because they're, like our minds tend to like label them as boring and unproductive and all of that. But actually, it's good. It's good to be bored. Like, it's been recognized that children, for example, need to be bored, because that's what imagination comes from, just creativity. And how can we bring this, in our business, which requires. So when I first started my coaching business in 2017, I had just moved to Argentina. I graduated from business school, where I specialized in entrepreneurship, and decided to start a second business. My first one was in content marketing, start a second one in marketing, and then moved away 10,000 kilometers away from home to start said business, which was, in hindsight, not the best idea. But I had always wanted to go to Argentina. I was determined on becoming a digital nomad, being location independent, and I was just there, and it was great. And also it was so hard because I had very little support system around me. I knew almost close to no one, when I first arrived. And for the first time in my life, I had no schedule, no routine, nothing. Because, I was like on my own. I had just graduated, no timetable, no schedule to follow. And that's when spirituality really, really came into my life, because I had that much space. And also because I needed it. I needed to have something more to believe in, like fully, to be able to be resilient in my business and to cope with the uncertainties that comes with it.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same experience basically, because like I had always done like the predetermined path that didn't lead anywhere, didn't find jobs after graduating, because apparently I could do anything with my multiple degrees, my multiple languages, my international work experience, but like that wasn't good, apparently. And so I had no confidence at all. Then was bullied at the few places they hired me where I couldn't even afford rent. And then I was like, F it all, and I jetted off to Australia, and then I didn't know what I'm doing now. Like, I had no plans. I just wanted to get away from everything, like burn all the bridges and restart. And then I realized I don't even know what I like. And so every day I would be like, what do I want to do? Like, where do I want to go? Like, I didn't know. And so I just went and was like bored, but also like excited because there's all of these cool new places that I've never seen. And I even like every time I go travel to a new country, the first thing I do is go to the grocery store and look at things, and I find everything fascinating. Look at this milk. Look at this.
Yeah.
Like, I went to the supermarket and they sold yams. I've never heard of the word before. And I was like, what's a yam? What's a yam? And then I just randomly asked people, I'm like, excuse me, sir, what is a yam? Like, I'm a crazy person. I was like, what is this person? And then like, they were all so nice to me. And then they explained to me how to cook it and whatnot. They're just like, so it's just a sweet potato. Okay. Anyway. And so like, I like saw things just differently, and you can kind of apply that to home, even though I find that much more difficult, to be honest, because it's just, the energy is also different. Like, yes, you can appreciate all the things that you have, but there's a certain kind of false predictability to it that I find I fall prey to a lot. But yeah, just becoming like a digital nomad and starting your business, and then that is hard. That is crazy, because you just have to make up stuff as you go. And I was lucky enough that random people just appeared out of nowhere, and then they helped me at specific points with specific things I had no idea I needed. And it just happened to work out because I was just like drifting around, talking to people, which I'd never do otherwise, because I'm the most introvert. But like when I travel, it's just this different vibe. And then just people kind of react to the energy of it when you're like, oh, I'm like so excited, I'm like, I just want to do things, like I don't know what to do with the energy, and people are like, I'm gonna like help you with this energy right here, right there. And it's just really, really fun, but also can be kind of dangerous when you start making that your normalcy, when you're just like, I have to be on the go all the time, I have to talk to all the people, take all the opportunities. And then it really like flipped like 180, and I became really angry and frustrated, and things just suddenly didn't work out anymore because I didn't take the time anymore to like sit still and appreciate it and just like have a break, because that's so important for manifestors too. Like, you can't just run on this, even if you do have motors like I do, but yeah, you can't keep it up. You need to sit still to just let the space develop so you can have a new idea or a new take on where to go next.
Yeah, and I think that's something, I mean, I was digital nomad from 2017 until about 2019, so 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. And I was traveling quite slow. In Argentina, I spent 6 months, and then I was traveling through Europe. I went to Asia. I was always traveling like at least, at the very minimum, 2 weeks in a place. Some people were just like, every week it's like a new country.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so tiring. It's so tiring to like find a new supermarket, a new gym, a new place where to do your laundry all the time. And I'm with you. I find traveling and being abroad very exciting in a way, because you don't know anything. So you always have to be in the present moment. So you can't really be anxious about things because you have no idea. On the other hand, on days where I was feeling low on energy, it felt like going outside was like such a big deal because it required so much effort to be present, and there was no routine, which meant that it wasn't always enjoyable. And then I would feel guilty if I were to stay inside watching Netflix, but I just needed a day to like restore and replenish. And it's just like, it's a whole thing. And now like I'm really glad that so in 2019 I went to Bali. I had this huge nudge to go to Bali. I waited for like 8-9 months for things to kind of align. And then I went there, and I'm so glad I did, because that's where I met my partner. I literally just sat next to him in a bar, like on a random, I think it was a Wednesday night. And we started chatting, and then we've been together for 5 years now. Like he told me to come and visit. We traveled together a bit in Thailand, in Bali as well. And then he told me to come and visit. And I did, and I never left, and I'm so glad to have, obviously, we're in love, and, it's great. And I'm also so, obviously, I'm also so glad that it came. I really feel like it came at the right time, because I was really getting tired of traveling all the time and not to have home. And especially when you're building a business. And I know it's like even more, I feel like somehow it's even trendier to be a digital nomad now. But like launching a business while you're traveling is just like uncertainty, type of uncertainty. And that is a lot of stress. And now I would do it very differently. I mean, I still like traveling, and I'm planning to travel some more this year and the year after and all that. But it's just very different to be a digital nomad because you can because you can be working anywhere, anytime. It means you can also be working like all the time from
That's
everywhere.
what I did. Yeah.
Exactly. So there are no boundaries. You don't have a weekend. You don't have like, it's very, I think it's great. I don't regret doing it. If someone came to me to ask me my opinion about that, if they wanted to start it, I think I'd make sure to give them like a very nuanced summary of my experience of like, it was great and it has some great aspects, and also it's very hard. Oh yeah. Because you always approach yourself, and I don't think it's very natural to do as a human being, to go somewhere, try and build new friendships, new routine, new habits alone, especially alone, and then approach yourself and put yourself again somewhere else and again and again and again. That is, I think this is very natural spiritually, at least to me it is. It feels like it. So it's great, but it's difficult. It's like so much easier than you'd think to do. On the practical it is, because most jobs now in the service industry can be done remotely, but it's all the other stuff that people don't talk about and don't really share, you know, like all the Wi-Fi that's not working, all the finding a new routine again, all that weird, you know, like all of that, and just not being able to make friends, or making friends for like 2 weeks and then they leave or you leave, and it's isolating.
That was like the biggest thing for me, because like I realized, like when I travel, even before when I was just working in internships abroad, I had this cutoff moment where I was like, if I have 3 months, then I'm happy. But if I have to stay longer, I get really weirdly agitated about it until I reach the 3-month mark. And then I'm like, okay, cool. So then I can structure like setting up my home base and setting up like my favorite places to go. So I have a routine and familiarity, but also enough space for me to go like sightseeing and like on random trips, and then also meet people, and then, you know, gauge if they're going to stay for longer or just for a short time, but then also completely be a homebody and like not go anywhere for a while, depending on the cycles. And so like for me, 3 months was always ideal. Most visa situations I get as a German around the world are also 3 months. So like it works really well for me. It was really easy. But what I hated was just having to say goodbye, or not even being able to forge any meaningful relationships. Because if you're like in the digital nomad community, you always meet people. It's like not hard to just like ask on Facebook and some groups, and somebody will come and like meet you or like introduce you to this co-working and that thing. But it's just like, I guess everybody in a way is guarded because they know they're gonna leave, they know you're gonna leave. And I find people are, it's just so hard to actually have something really like the deep conversations, really meaningful things where you can also talk about maybe your business failures and your struggles, instead of just being at this competition. Like I found that a lot, even when like in communities where people really shared a lot of tips with each other, like you should do this part of SEO, you should do this strategy, this thing. But when you're like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to do the traditional marketing, people were suddenly like really quick to be like, then you won't be successful, and you shouldn't do this, you should be on all the platforms. Like I remember when people pushed Google Plus on me, and I was like, can you leave me alone? And I was like, yeah, Google Plus is like the social media, blah, where is this, come on. And you know, so like I always felt so weird about it, and I just wanted to have friends, even if they moved on, because like most people have friends as adults that don't live in the same town anymore. Like so many times your childhood friends, like the one you're still in touch with, they're not where you are. That's kind of normal, but it's still a different mindset if they know that there, and then you can plan something, and you know, maybe you can like have somebody to go home with, like to have a base with, like to have your own 4 walls to host a thing. Like it's just so different as a digital nomad, because it's just underlying, and for me it was like this underlying anxiety of like, are they just conveniently here? And this is what this relationship is like. Everything felt like a situationship, like platonically. It's just like, it's just...
Yeah, I must admit, I felt differently. I'm still in touch with most of the people I met as a digital nomad abroad, but yeah, it wasn't easy. It was, for me, it was really heartbreaking to, to be like, oh, I'm coming back this time. Will you be here? Or actually, no, I'm leaving a few days before. I think it was more that. Most of the people I haven't seen again, but actually, probably, I don't know. I'm still in touch with most of them, and I would gladly go and have a drink with them. But then,
oh yeah, I can have that too. Like, I have friends everywhere, and if I meet them again, like, it's like, oh, we haven't parted, but it's still this.
Yeah.
Then you're gone next week. I'm like, oh, I don't want to get too attached right now.
I know, yeah. I mean, that was a real thing. And, once more, I am glad that I kind of started growing roots when I did. And, one of my compass now in life is also looking at how people used to do things like 200, 2,000 years ago. And I'm not saying I would like to go back to a time where you were born in a village and always stayed in the village, because that sounds terrible to me.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, you would grow up and live with your peers and your community would be about 200 to 2,000 people, I would imagine. And you know these people all your life, and they know you. And, like, if you did something wrong, the elders would come and talk to you, and your whole family would be implicated. And of course, there would be like a huge amount of drama and gossips. But there was your community, there were your people. And now it's so much harder to find that, because, you have, your school friends and childhood friend and maybe university friend and then job friend and then digital nomad friend. And it's just like people spread across the world, as you were saying, which I find fantastic. And also, as we were saying, sometimes a bit like, don't want to get too attached, because you're not going to be able to see them like every day or every week. And we do need this kind of connection. We do need to have people who have our back, and regardless of if you have like a husband or wife or a partner or a whole family or not, because we need a village. Like, the expression that you need a village to raise a child. Like, you need a village for you. You need a full village.
Exactly.
For you.
Yeah, because also there's so many different like friendship and that help you with specific things. Like, you can't just put it on one person all the time, or you can't just expect all of your friends to save you all the time. Like, they're not there for your emotional support all the time, like everybody has their own thing. So like, it's really healthy to have like a variety of different people to expand your bubble, which is why I love travel, because you then just naturally see beyond your own. And but also to just meet people where they're at, because I hate it when it's been like pushed with media so much, like, oh, you meet somebody and you kind of want to change them into your perfect. No, you meet somebody, either you like vibe and you take on, like, you accept that they have all of these quirks and flaws, and you're like, yeah, I still like them, that's cool. But you're not about to be like, yeah, you would be perfect if only you did this thing, and then you can like manipulate that person into that. Like, no. Right? And so like, the more people you meet, obviously, the more you can like gauge that, but then also you need to commit in some way to be like, okay, yes, I like this person. Maybe we only do hangouts. Maybe this person's only for like deep conversations, and it's like mutual though, and like, different ways. You can't just force everything on everybody, where you can make one person be everything for you,
Definitely.
Yeah. So, what do you think, like, your biggest urge, like, I guess with the moving and the traveling digital nomads, I don't know, how did it show up for you? I'm always like curious. Is it just, it wasn't like a soft urge, you're like, yeah, this feels good, I'm just gonna go for it? Or was there like some internal struggle behind it for you, or like maybe even external?
For traveling, for deciding to be a digital nomad?
Yeah. But it just happened, for me, it kind of happened.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it stemmed. Actually, I was talking about it a few months ago with a friend. I think. Well, I've always loved traveling, and I was fortunate enough that during the summer, with my parents, we'd go on holiday somewhere, usually abroad. So I'd get to like have a taste of a different culture. And then when I was a kid, my grandmother insisted that I take English lessons, which I hated, but obviously it's working well for me because I'm living in the UK now. So thank you. But yeah, I think it was more to do with kind of, how we're talking before about feeling like adults had like all the things figured out. I would see adults around me and people and just like, like the typical normal life and absolutely not project myself into it. And it wasn't so much the routine aspect, it was more the getting up, getting to work because you have to go to work and then coming back home, regardless of what you want to do. And
yeah, the bitching about it, living for the weekend, like, why do you do this? It sounds horrible.
Yeah, for me, it was the lack of intention behind it. I feel like a lot of my choices now in life are really intentional. Like I'm very intentional in, being in the UK, in being with my partner, in what I eat and what my day look like. And because I don't want to create a life for myself, which is by default, I have questioned pretty much, I wouldn't say everything because you can always question more, but I question a lot of things. And I found my opinion, my perspective, and my way of doing things, eventually. And I changed my mind and all of that. But yeah, it's very important to me and always has been very important to do things my way and to just do things because I wanted to. And I think it will come as no surprise that I am ego authority. So literally,
I just wanted to ask you that. That was my next question. I'm like, that sounds normal.
Yeah, so I am ego authority. So it's always been about what do I want, and I've always wanted to do what I want, when I want it, whenever I want it, which doesn't really coincide so much with a job. And when at business school, I had like a year of internship, and I started working in this startup, connecting freelancers and companies, because really I wanted to see what was this whole freelancing thing, because I never, like all the people around me had been employees, so I didn't have this entrepreneurship fiber or anything. It just felt like it was like a different species,
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to get a closer look, and my internship was amazing. The startup was amazing. We were like only 15, I think, when I arrived, and now they're like about 300. So like they've been doing really, really well. So they've gone to different countries, and at the time it was just like amazing. I was working on their marketing. I was part of the team. I created my own job within it. They wanted to hire me at the end. But after 6 months, I just felt so bored. I just, I love the people were really cool. Yeah. There was a good culture. The project was, I think the vision was amazing. And I was just like, I can't do that for like my whole life or like, So that's kind of what was the last straw on the camelback that decided me into like, and I had also seen closer, I had come closer to saying what exactly is the life of an entrepreneur or freelance contractor and all that. And I was like, actually, they're normal people. They're not like super geniuses, they don't have like a lot of skills that I don't, like that I can't pick up as I'm going my way. So that's what's really decided me in doing that. So at the end of this year, I actually started my own company freelancing, as a content marketer. And then during my last year of business school, when I did my MSc in entrepreneurship, I was just focused on all that. I started going to digital nomad conferences. I started talking to people, and I was just like, this is what I want to do, So like all my energy got into developing my businesses to be able to just like leave as soon as I would graduate and like move away. In hindsight, I would have taken a holiday before moving because it was really challenging. But yeah, it just felt like, it just like, even now, like, sometimes, I, just like everyone, I have some days where I'm like, what am I doing? And, the uncertainty gets a lot and the pressure, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get a job. And then I'm like, I'm not. Like,
who am I kidding?
Yeah, I just, the freedom, and as much as sometimes it gets, hard and frustrating and tears and anger and, as we'll laugh, it's just like, this is what I feel like I'm supposed to do, I'm very free in my days. I'm someone who I like to be in my own bubble and to be able to rest, and I have pets and I love spending time with them, and I have a partner and I love spending time with him as well. And it's just nice. My life is really slow, actually. I don't do a lot of work, but I am passionate about what I do and helping other people and having this kind of conversation and to show other people that it doesn't have to be hard to create a business that supports your life and not the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. No hustling.
No hustling.
No. Oh, I love that. Yeah. I think that wraps up this episode real nicely. Is there like anything we didn't touch on that you wanted to like summarize it, or like you want to put out your words of wisdom?
Ooh, no pressure, right?
No.
I think I'm good. I think it just, at the end of the day, like all the answers are within us and just create space in our life. And the more we follow our joy, the more, and the peace and whatever your signature is in human design, the better we get. Because, like, I feel like there are two parts in each of us, at least two, but you have the mind, and I tend to work with people who like are very ambitious and very smart, and we have a vision, and it gets very overwhelming because all the scenario, all the plan, all the strategy, and then it ends up being very overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So solution to that is always going back to the present and always ensuring that we have proper rest and we move our body and we have like a nice grounding practice, because at the end of the day, like, we're humans first, and business is great. Business has been life-changing in so many ways, and I don't want it to be my whole life. I want it to be a part of a really good life.
No, that's good, and that's how it should be, I think so. I think like the purpose in life is just to actually live it.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So where can people find you or maybe work with you? Where do you hang out on social, on your website? What do you do?
So I hang out on Instagram. So my username on all the platforms is my name, Marion Chloé Theis. So you can find me on Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel that I'm planning on producing more content for. I was thinking at the beginning of like kind of taking a step back, and I am a big advocate of when I'm talking about content strategy and all that, to produce more long form content. And I'm definitely, following my own advice, how it goes. So definitely on YouTube. And then I'm on Facebook as well. You can find me on Goodreads. I love reading fantasy books and
any good book you want to recommend?
Ooh, just the one.
I mean, multiple. I don't know.
An oldie but a goodie that I recommended to a friend recently is Six of Crow from the World Grishavers. Six of Shadow and Bones turned into a show on Netflix, but the book's really good. Really, really good.
Okay. I haven't watched it yet, and I haven't read the book, so maybe I should start reading the books first. Probably.
Yeah, the books are good. So you have like different. Look it up. It's really good. It's a really nice universe. It's very different, and it's very exciting. So yeah, definitely one of my favorites from the past few years.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much. That was a lovely chat.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. And I do have a website, which is myname.com, like very keeping it easy. And if anybody like watching this has any question, want to connect, just send me a DM, just say where you've that you've seen that, and I'm always happy to see to know where people are coming from, to just create this relationship. It's so much better when we have human interaction instead of like people following you and lurking and all that.
Yeah, you just want to know, like, where did you actually find me? Like, what was the context? Because we talk about lots of different things as human. Like, what was this? I was just like, so what made you reach out? And people are like, I don't know. Like, so what do you want from me then?
I tend to do the same. When I receive, I'm semi-active on Facebook, in Facebook groups and all that, which I think is where we're connected, right?
Yeah.
So people send me a friend request, and I'm like, okay, so hi, yeah, it's nice to connect, but like any specific reason for which you wanted to, I'm happy to just, like be friends, but let's actually have a conversation maybe.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I want to know if this is going to be like a hidden sales call too. Like, please tell me you actually want to talk to me and not just like a potential lead.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh well, but all the links will be down in the show notes, so people can just click on them and then say hi to you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I wish you a fantastic day, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode, and I hope you had a lot of information taken from this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any things you want to share about maybe your troubles, how your human design journey is going, or if you're entirely new to it, please let me and Marion know, because we are on social media. All of the links are down below in the show notes, so you can connect with us, you can work with us, you can give us feedback on how you liked the episode, and it would also be great if you could just review it, if you give it a star on your chosen podcast streaming platform. That helps more people find it, because it's still pretty new and small, and any push would be greatly appreciated. And with that, I'm just going to wrap up this 3rd season of the podcast, and I'll, talk back. Well, I will continue this at some point in the future, so stay tuned. Make sure you are subscribed so you know when the new episodes are released, and I wish you a fabulous day. Bye!